Welcome to Master Gardening. I'm your host, Bud Qualk, and you'll never guess what we're going to talk about today. It's the secret, mysterious life of orchids. Stay tuned, I'll be right back. We're relaxing here today at the home of Dr. David and Karen Hogancamp. And in some orchid and flower circles, Karen is a orchid guru. Is that true? How long have you been doing this?
About 13 years, yeah.
13, that's what, you shouldn't say 13 on TV. That's not, that's unlucky,
Oh.
yes, yeah.
Okay, over 12. How
Over
about that?
12,
Is
well,
that
that's
good?
what I was gonna say, over a dozen or more?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
what does the name orchid mean? We'll start out with that.
What does it mean?
We've talked about this
Flower.
off stage a little bit, that's why we're bringing it up.
It's a Greek word, also a Latin, yeah. Greek, the Greek word is orchis.
And it means the boys or the family jewels or mountain oysters.
Why don't you, do you have a computer?
Google it.
It would be good to Google, yeah, Google. That
it
would
up.
be,
And it
yes.
probably has to do with fertility, probably. No, not it.
I don't know where the Greeks got it from, but that's,
Okay.
yeah.
But and I talked to you earlier, and I said mysterious orchids, and to
Yeah.
you, because you've been doing it over a dozen years, they're not mysterious.
No.
But you just can't accidentally grow orchids like we were talking earlier. You have to do it on purpose because all the techniques are just a little bit different than the normal flowers. Matter of fact, some people buy them when they're blooming, and after they are bloomed, they throw them away and treat them like annuals, which is pretty expensive for the average guy, I think. You know.
I think so. A lot of people think that once they finish blooming, I mean, that's it. They're dead, but they're not. You know, you just have to keep watering them and fertilizing and giving them enough sun, and they'll.
Well, how often do
eventually
they bloom? They bloom.
Well, it depends. Usually once a year. There are some different types of phales that will bloom, and this is a phalaenopsis right here.
Phalaenopsis.
They will bloom a couple of times a year. I have some vandas that I'll show later that are over here hanging up, and they have been blooming constantly since last summer.
For almost a whole year.
Right. And they're not growing in any medium at all. They're growing in just teak baskets.
Oh my!
And
I'll have to look at those in a minute.
The roots on them are about 3 feet long.
So really, orchids really don't need soil.
Definitely not soil.
They
Not what the common gardener would consider potting soil. It's a medium. We call it potting medium.
It holds the moisture in the fertilizer mainly, the food.
Well, it actually allows. There's a combination of bark and sponge rock and charcoal. And
What's it?
well, this right here is a much thinner mixture of the potting medium that I use, and the smaller the bark, the more moisture it's going to hold. So usually with seedlings, smaller plants, you want to have a much finer mix so that it will hold in the moisture.
Less watering then. You don't have to water quite so often.
Well, you still do have to water quite often with seedlings because they do dry out. But orchids are air plants, and they like air around their roots, and that's one reason why you use a lot of the sponge rock and charcoal, and also I'm going to show you a trick later when we repot, how to recycle some things.
Dan said we couldn't use the word repot on TV. It was bad. Never mind.
We can't repot.
We'll repot here in a minute.
Yeah.
And now, what are these little things sticking out the side?
Those
These
are the roots.
roots.
Right. Now this one is dry. Of course, this one can be cut off, and that's fine. But these over here that are green.
Yeah, the green ones, the brown ones you can cut
why
off.
don't- Here, let's just take this right out of here.
And this
like
one wasn't
this.
the best one for roots either, was it?
No, I actually have one over there that the roots are hanging up.
We'll look at it in a minute.
Right in through here, all of these roots that are stable and thick, these are good roots. You know, a lot of people will come into our orchid shows and they'll say, you know, I bought an orchid here last year and I don't know what happened, but you know, all these things started coming out of the top of the plant and I cut them off. You know, they were pruning it. You don't prune orchids. those are the roots. Without the roots, you're not going to have
Yeah.
a plant. So it's like, no.
Sometimes
no.
they stick straight up in the air. And
Oh,
they
well,
look like
and
maybe
then-
you're going to bloom again, but
Well, and
they,
then
no.
you find some of the orchids that what they'll do is they'll grow out of their pot and get into somebody else's pot.
Ah,
And so when it's time to repot, you know, their little roots just,
don't covet the
They-
neighbor's pot.
they just go everywhere. But anyway, so
these are
do
the
not cut
leaves.
these off. These are the leaves.
And what's this called here? That
It's
just a
an
stem?
inflorescence.
Inflorescent. It goes
Or you
all the
can
way up.
call, or bloom spike.
Inflorescent bloom spike.
Inflorescence.
That's so romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they are aphrodisiac, and they're not aphrodisiacs. You can't eat the blooms or anything like that.
But you know, I think dendrobiums you can eat the blooms, but
Yeah.
no, I've never
They're
eaten my
beautiful- they're beautiful in
orchids.
salad or what have you.
I've never wanted to eat one of my orchids.
Well, the flowers, are they anything special about the flower itself? The bloom is the different parts or anything, or do you know? I'm asking questions that I shouldn't be asking.
Well, you know, you have your petals, you know, and then
Your stamens and your
yes,
all that
you're
good
you're
stuff.
getting into a lot of when this is called the lip. This area right here is the lip.
We're going to look at a lot of you got a lot of orchids around here. I've got a bunch, but they're not blooming right now, and maybe we can find out later how you can make those bloom
For next year.
for next year.
For next
You got to plan ahead. You just can't.
Well, and sometimes too, when you get an orchid, if you bought an orchid this year, and it has to adapt to your surroundings, because when it was grown in a greenhouse, it probably had stronger light and more controlled, actually more control of its habitat. And then you take it from the greenhouse and bring it to your house, it has to adapt to other living conditions. So sometimes they don't really go into shock, but sometimes it takes them a year before they can adapt. Most of the time it doesn't, but sometimes that can be a problem.
Now,
To try to get
not
them to
that
rebloom.
long ago, during the last century, these were really expensive. And you see on TV all these different shows where they've got a planetarium or something where on the top of the hotel or whatever, where they've got orchids, and these people are extremely rich, and they have all, these aren't that expensive anymore, relatively.
Oh, no, compared to 100 years ago, people were paying $10,000, people in England, you know, $10,000, $20,000 for an orchid. And they used to be a hobby just for the rich. And now you can buy an orchid for $10, $15, $20, but you can also spend $250, $500, $1,000 if you know,
Now this is
so
one of the
choose.
least expensive and easiest to grow. And what was the name of it again?
I think, now you may get some orchid hobbyists that prefer other ones. Lady slippers, which are the
Yes.
papillopetalums or frags. I happen to like Phalaenopsis. I think that they're very, very easy to grow, and that if someone is just starting out, they should start with a phale.
And what was the story
Because
about?
I think they're pretty fail safe. Maybe that's why they call them phales.
They're fail
You
safe
can't
to somebody
fail.
that's been doing it for a dozen years. What about the story about the two guys, the orchid thieves?
Actually, there were 4 men. There was a white man and 3 Indians, and they were stealing orchids out of Florida.
Florida.
And they were on trial, and The Orchid Thief is about that. And then I believe that the book goes on to talk about other people in other countries stealing orchids out of the country and being killed for it.
You know, that was the punishment for stealing. That was
Yeah.
probably it's like stealing somebody's car for about as much money as they were worth back then, I guess. So it's like
Well,
the
they were
cattle
getting all
thieves.
this, yeah, and they were getting all this. They were getting all this money from England, and so
Yeah.
they were going to steal them so they
Okay.
could export them.
Well, let's touch on the Orchid Society, the Paducah Orchid Society. You meet if you're interested in orchids. This would be something good for a gardener to join orchids and
Right.
Orchid Society.
Yeah.
When do they meet? How could somebody join?
Every third Sunday at 2 o'clock, from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. We have a website. It's www.PaducahOrchidSociety, one word, PaducahOrchidsSociety.com.
Oh, I would remember that, PaducahOrchidsSociety.com.
Yeah, not the, it's just
Just Paducah Orchid
PaducahOrchidsSociety.com.
And where do they meet?
We're meeting at Culpeper Place. It's over on Holt Road. So-
Okay, I'm ready to look at some orchids. Let's go look at some orchids, okay?
Okay, sounds
All
good to
right.
me.
Karen, is this your greenhouse? It looks like a greenhouse.
Yeah, it does. It actually used to be a full-fledged greenhouse years ago, and I had about 800 orchids.
It's full of
And-
orchids, and that was it, probably.
Yeah, it was not very human-friendly at all. Not even for me, because it was too much work. But now it's a sunroom, and the orchids just to get to live out here, you know, just. And it's, you know, it's a manageable amount right now.
Yeah, how
was-
did you manage with 800 orchids?
Well, I didn't.
A lot
That's how
of them
come I
died.
don't have 800 now.
So they died back to a manageable level?
Right, right. You know,
Yeah.
now it's a hobby and not a job. So
Survival of the fittest. Now, I know how it
That's
is when you
right.
get into something new, you become a orchid maniac or whatever.
well, an orchidholic.
Orchidholic.
Yeah, because you can't just buy one.
Forget that Greek terminology.
Well,
Never mind.
whenever you go to orchid shows, it's really pretty funny because you have people fighting over the same orchid. You know, and it's like, I found that one first.
And you see one you never saw before, and you gotta have it.
Got to have them.
Gotta
Got to
have
have
'em.
them. And if
Gotta have
someone
'em.
gets one, you have to get one just like it because they got it.
Yes. What is it? Envy. Orchid envy. Never mind. Well, this one right here is really special. Tell me about this yellow
well,
one right here.
this is a species. This is an Oncidium, and it's the common name is dancing lady. And as you can see, she has a little skirt right here, and then here's a gentleman standing behind her. And this is actually quite a large bloom on this, and a lot of your hybrids are taken from this plant right here.
So this part up here is part of the bloom up here? This is not a leaf, that's part of the bloom?
No, that's part of the bloom.
Part of the bloom.
That's the bloom.
And-
The leaves on these plants are down at the base of the plant.
Yeah.
You know, you don't.
And we already said what is
It's
this?
an inflorescence.
Inflorescence.
Or
I
you
love
can
that.
just
I
call it
love
a
that.
bloom spike. I mean,
Okay.
you know, you don't have to say inflorescence.
And what in the heck is a species?
A species is a plant that's grown in nature naturally. I mean, if you went outside and found some orchids growing in the wild, that would be.
And I've done that before.
Species.
I've done the lady slipper anyway.
Yeah.
I've seen those in the wild. Don't
Yeah,
see
the-
too many in this part of the country. But
The hybrid plants are the ones that you crossbreed. And you can crossbreed species or a species with another plant that's already been hybridized, and
so you can get any kind of color or size, shape,
pretty much.
whatever you want. Yeah.
Pretty much.
That probably takes quite a while to do that, doesn't it? You can't just do that overnight.
No, that from the seed stage to blooming stage is about 9 years. So it's like, you know, as we get older, you know, don't buy any green tomatoes. It's like don't buy any, you know, seed pods.
You may
or
not make it to the
flasks.
tomatoes,
Yeah,
right?
you
I
might not
never-
be able
I
to
never-
see it bloom.
That's a good one.
So, so yeah, I mean, and you have to be very, very patient. You know, when somebody crosses a plant, they have to send the seed pod. Once they get a seed pod, they have to send it off to a lab under sterile conditions, and then they put it in this medium to grow the little tiny plants. Then they put them in flasks, and then the next step is a little community pot where you get hundreds
Sounds-
of little plants, and then they're split into these.
Sounds mysterious. Sounds very mysterious to me. No?
Not too much.
No.
But that's,
Let's look at some more of these. This one,
that's another Phalaenopsis.
Phalaenopsis, and we got one down the floor, a pink one
Yes,
down here.
actually, yeah, this is a Dorytonopsis, which is a cross between a Phalaenopsis and a Dorytus.
This one right
But it's
this one right
basically
here?
that one right there.
That's a cross?
Yes, it's a hybrid.
Okay.
Most of these are hybrids. There are not too many species. I mean, I don't have too many species right now.
The species are more expensive and probably harder to take care of, maybe?
No,
No?
no, they're just it's just if you went into nature and found this splidinum, this is what it would look like.
Yeah.
They would all look like that. And this one over here is the one
This is the one that's got
that's the Dorytonopsis.
that's the cross. That we may have broken the leaf off now.
May have. You just
What about
never know.
behind you? What's these right here? This
These
is
are
really
Vandas. I
interesting.
was talking about these earlier. These do not need anything but water and fertilizer and air.
There's nothing in there. There's no bark or
Well,
anything in
yeah,
there.
that's what I mean. I mean, they're air plants. Orchids are air plants. They love air flowing around their roots. That's why they come out of their pots and get into
Really looks-
everybody else's pot.
Looks really healthy.
And it's a little fragrant bloom. It had others, but it decided that they didn't want to live. And
That's a heck of a one there.
these have incredibly long roots.
How old is that plant probably? Is it 50 years old? Or is
Oh no, this is probably only about, it's only bloomed about four or five times. I've had it about 5 or 6 years.
it, it was pretty new when you bought it, pretty young when you bought it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, speaking
And then here's
of
another one
your
that's
sunroom here, your greenhouse, what kind of light do you need for a... I've got mine in a northern window. That's probably not bad.
That
It
is
bloomed
that is
for
the
months and
biggest.
months and months.
That's the biggest. Well, once you get it blooming, you can put it anywhere. You can
Oh.
put it in your bathroom.
care.
No, it really doesn't care once it starts blooming.
And you don't want to fertilize while it's blooming.
It really
Doesn't make any difference.
it doesn't matter. It takes 6 weeks for the fertilizer to come up into the bloom spike.
Ah.
So
But what's the best place to put your orchids if you were?
all the windows except north.
Is that where I've got them?
So
That's perfect. Perfect.
east,
perfect.
west, south.
But you can't get too much sun?
You can, but the perfect way to tell if you're getting too much sun is put your hand on the leaf, and if the leaf is hot,
Is that right?
yes, then you need to take it out because it will burn. It will make spots on the leaf. This one just
I had heard something about if
Just
if
doesn't
the
look
leaf
like it.
turns a dark green, it's getting
not enough.
not enough, and if it turns
No.
light green, it's getting too much.
Which this one got too much.
That's-
but
I was
just
right?
I just got this one. Yes,
I
yes.
had that one thing
Yes.
right.
But
Tammy,
these,
you're proud of me?
These are actually getting a good amount. This is not too dark right here.
Yeah.
But I have had the shades down on some of these plants because they were getting a little bit too much light. But they do demand light. I mean, any plant, or most plants, you know,
Like dappled shade or filtered light.
yeah, they have to. And you were talking about having a cattleya, and it wasn't blooming. They demand a lot of light.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go
And-
home and move mine around then, I guess. I mean,
Yeah, the north window is definitely not the most favorite place to
Now
have.
this is a different one right here, and I think I know what it is,
That's a Paphiopedilum. It's a lady slipper.
but looks like a slipper.
It does. It looks like a boot. The common name is lady slipper. And there are some others in
Variegated leaves there.
petals.
I'm talking about the
Oh, the
leaves.
leaves, yes.
Sorry.
Leaves, that's what you were pointing to, the petals.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is one of those ones that doesn't need any.
That's a Vanda.
You just
Yeah,
throw it in
that's
there,
another
right?
Vanda. Well, yeah,
Okay.
and actually, before I had a chance to stabilize it, the roots started growing down into the pot, and then I
Just leave it there,
couldn't
huh?
move it. And that was the same thing with this one over here.
Once it got through the thing, you didn't want to take a chance on
Well, I
knocking
put it in this
It's in two different pots.
larger basket because it was outgrowing the smaller basket, and
Too bad.
yeah, now the roots are growing, and this one's actually getting ready
That's
to bloom.
oh yes, that's wonderful. That's a great specimen
And
right
see, in
there.
this bloom
Even though it's
right
not a
he-
specimen, but yeah.
A species. This one has aborted.
So that one's going to be not going to do good.
No, and see, there's honey on there.
Honey?
Yeah.
Nectar?
You can actually, yes, you can actually, that's actually sweet. If you, right there on the side, touch that, you
yes.
can eat that.
It tastes.
Yes,
Tammy, you want some of this? No?
it's actually sweet, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's sticky, gooey.
Yes.
I hope you haven't given me something bad.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow.
Karen, how do you know when you want to repot a orchid?
Well, it depends.
Signs?
Well, it depends on what kind of orchid it is. This is the lady slipper, and unlike the Phalaenopsis, it doesn't have large roots coming out.
Doesn't have any out there almost.
No, they're all in the bottom down in here. But it has a large stalk right here, and this should be sitting down on top of the soil.
Okay.
But we can, we'll repot this a little bit later. Right now, we can
What other
work on
ones
this.
with all the roots? Are they all to be underneath?
No,
Or-
not all
no?
of them, because that would be, most
Too
of
deep?
the plant it would be drowning in soil.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. And one thing you have to remember when you're repotting is that you should put the tags back in the proper plant, because then if
You're gonna
you,
get them mixed up.
yeah, it would be pretty bad if you had a lady slipper tag in a phalaenopsis, and people would know that that really wasn't.
What's this thing right here?
That is a dried up inflorescence, okay? And what you do when you're repotting, I have my trusty nippers here.
Don't dip.
You cut, and a lot of times you don't let these completely get brown. As soon as they're finished blooming, people say, well, I don't know what to do with that thing, which is the inflorescence. So you cut it above the bottom eye, and that's it.
Leave that sticking up like that?
Sure, yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
And then I was asked earlier what I did with my blowtorch.
My gosh.
So you have to sterilize. Actually, it's the same plant, so I really shouldn't have to do that.
Okay.
But when you go from plant to plant, you have to sterilize it, or else you're going to transfer fungus and
You should do that with a
All
lot of
kinds of
plants, but people just
things.
don't do it. But
Really?
it's life or death with these, probably, isn't it?
well,
No?
they don't like it. They don't mind getting in somebody else's pot, but if and then I was talking about recycling earlier. All those little peanuts that we get in our packages, and nobody ever knows what to do with them,
Go in the
because
landfill.
300 years from now, they're still going to be
Exactly the same.
styrofoam peanuts. Well, we orchid people are helping.
Okay.
Somewhat.
Don't be
Okay.
too rough now.
No, it's, see, these are dried up. You can tell the difference. Now, these you can cut off, and I'll show you.
The brown dry ones,
Yeah, they're just falling.
they're-
See, they're just falling off.
they're
So
green
what
or
you
white, you
do,
don't want to.
you just kind of clip all these off.
Nip them in the bud. To coin a phrase, of course.
Are you trying to be funny?
Paul James is my hero, though. Did you know that?
I
that's a different
wouldn't have guessed.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tammy. That's a different TV station. Don't turn on Home and Garden TV.
Oh, no, do you know what? Saturday mornings I turn that on, and it stays on all day.
Yeah, I do that, but
Except if golf is on, then I have to
I
change it.
change over to the food channel about 11.
Oh, no, I stay on it all day long.
Barefoot Contessa and those.
Okay, I'm not going to get real carried away with the whole roots here, but this,
You cleaned her out pretty good.
yeah, they're pretty good. Okay,
Okay.
so now what we do is we take our new pot.
Bigger pot,
Here.
but not too much bigger, right?
No,
This is all just stuff that needs
This
to be
is-
thrown away.
right, we're not going to put that back in the plant. So we take some of our little peanuts, and we talked about soil before. We don't have soil.
Clean peanuts.
Clean peanuts. Came out of a newly delivered package last week. Here's our potting medium, which is a mixture of charcoal
Where can you get that?
and bark and sponge rock. This particular stuff I got from a dealer in Miami.
Okay. But around
But
here.
around here, usually when we have our orchid shows,
That's a little long. Far to go.
no, not the peanuts. The
Okay.
bark.
Any garden center probably has it. Orchid.
Should, but they don't necessarily have a lot of the sponge rock and the
This is-
charcoal.
This is the sponge rock.
Yes.
Okay, I've never
Yes.
seen that before.
And you might have to get extra sponge rock
Mm-hmm.
and charcoal to put in there. Okay,
Okay.
so you just kind of fill this up. Kind of,
Need some help?
yeah, there are 2 extra hands over there, and you're not really
Hey,
doing a whole
let's go,
lot.
go, go.
It says, you put your gloves on to help. And
That's right, but I thought they were just for show.
Okay,
Okay, how's that?
so,
There's no scientific way to put that in there. You just
no, you just have to make sure that everything is in there, and then after you water it, and this bark has been soaking overnight. You don't want to put dry bark
Okay,
in
so
there.
it's, yeah, because it would take forever to get that bark.
Right, to get it moist.
Soak-
and it
soak the
pretty
bark
much,
overnight.
and it doesn't look very nice because it still has all these roots, but
I love
there
those
we
roots.
have it. Voila.
That's it?
Well, that's one, yes.
Okay. Well, the mysteries of life?
No,
I didn't. Okay, look, and we did break that off earlier.
Yes, you did break that, didn't you?
Okay.
Bud.
All right. Well, how do you water them?
bye-bye.
Now, say, for instance, before we go to another plant, what if this has been on your shelf
Right.
and it's dried up a little bit? It's time to water, which is usually about a week. Every week you probably water them.
At least once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on the time of the year. Water it thoroughly. Let the water drain out completely. Don't let it sit in water. Orchids do not like wet feet. Okay,
don't
so
just-
you can't sit it in one of those nice fancy little pots. I mean, you see some of these pots here, but they have holes in the bottom.
You can't do it like a regular plant. So what I do at home is I turn the faucet on and just let it run through
Right,
for
right.
quite a while. Okay, that's
I mean, as
unusual.
long as you just keep watering it. Fertilizing, the rule of thumb is weekly, which means 1/8 of a teaspoon per gallon of water.
Okay.
So, and you do that every week.
So whenever you water that one time, you put that.
Well, normally what we do is water thoroughly and then come back with a fertilizer.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I think we got time to do one more quickie.
Okay? This one, actually, I'm going to show you this one because it's kind of sick.
That'd be quick. Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sterilize my trusty nippers.
The
Okay,
leaves
look
aren't
at the leaves. Yes.
Yeah,
And what I'm
what's wrong
going to
with that
do,
baby?
I'm probably not going to show you that I'm going to repot it, but I'm going to cut all these off. It needs more roots is the problem. Okay?
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of water
Ah.
and I'm going to moisten that. And I'm going to take, if you hold that for me,
Okay.
I'm going to take some Rootone.
Scalpel?
No, I'm going to take some Rootone,
Okay.
which is root stimulator, and I'm going to put it all on the base of this, and then we'll repot.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And then probably in a couple of months, these leaves will firm back up and
Did you
they'll be
cut
fine.
that off?
No, I'll just let it dry up.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot today. It's been
Good.
fun. I could spend another hour with you, or all day with you, really, because I love these things. I love the blooms, but I have a lot of trouble getting them to rebloom too. So
Remember your light,
light.
your light, your fertilizer,
your
water,
water.
and for the Phalaenopsis, you have to get them cold.
Okay.
In October, November, they have to be cold.
Cold means how cold?
About 10, 15 degrees
Okay.
below, you know,
Normal.
what their normal temperature is for that night.
Okay, thanks a lot.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
So try an orchid. Maybe they're not so mysterious after all. This is Bud Qualk with Master Gardening to the Good Life. See you next time.